My father was only 6 when his father, Robert Hichens, was killed. And so my father's life was definitely defined by the loss of his father at such a young age.
Hichens had been at sea for 3.5 years non-stop, out almost every night. And then just as they were withdrawing, a stray shell hit the boat and he was killed. It was the most devastating thing for the men and women of coastal forces. And he was an extraordinary, highly decorated officer, and he was hugely inspirational to his people and to the wider Navy. He was a legend.
My father would go to Remembrance Sunday every year and he would cry, and I never saw my father cry as a child except on Remembrance Sunday.
So coastal forces were brought in because battleships and aircraft carriers and submarines are not ideal vessels for what became known as the Battle of the Narrow Sea. And we needed an extra group of people who were the Royal Naval Volunteer Reserve. These were people brought in just for wartime service only. They were volunteers. Many of them had some background on the water, perhaps in the fishing fleets, perhaps as recreational sailors. They could train them more quickly and get them to sea more quickly. So the Royal Naval Volunteer Reserve played a very important role in the First World War. It then disappeared for 15, 20 years and came back with a vengeance in the Second World War.
In World War II, there were a whole range of coastal forces vessels, motor gunboats, motor torpedo boats, motor launchers, and then steam gunboats. As time went on, it was realized, and this was a lot of Robert Hichens' pressure, to say, well, actually, at times the motor gunboats were in a position to fire a torpedo if only they had one. And so eventually the motor gunboats were armed with torpedoes as well, and the two types of vessel largely merged.
We're building a monument now because there hasn't been a monument before to coastal forces. It's been largely overlooked. We're seeing the last of the veterans die. We're seeing their direct descendants getting quite old. So there is a sense that now is the time, because if we leave it another 10 years, it'll be lost.
I've always loved big scale sculpture, and this project, it's an opportunity to really push me out of my comfort zone. I'll start off with scale models, or maquettes they're commonly called, and then I need to work out my ratio of measurement to then scale up to life size. And so for the figures, I'm doing it in quite the traditional way. So welding up a steel armature and frame, which has to be really resilient to cope with all the clay I'm putting on. And I love that. I love mark making and in clay. I love the physicality of it. Hitch became kind of a central figure on this piece. And through this process, I had the opportunity to meet many of the trustees. And one was in fact his son, Anthony Hichens. Seymour Pike is the signalman, and they're sort of on the bow of this boat. I thought when visitors come to the site, it'll be very dramatic. And then later, a wren became part of it. Eve Branson is going to be our wren.
We are very lucky to have the close collaboration of the Portsmouth Historic Quarter, which allows us to put this monument in the prime site in Portsmouth's historic dockyard, the home of the Royal Navy. We've brought together a brilliant team of different skill sets, which sometimes reminds me of the different skill sets you get in a fast patrol boat. But the key thing that we need, apart from those brilliant people who are doing the work, I'm afraid, is money. Your donations are always welcome. There's a number of ways to do it. We've got a pretty active social media presence these days. We've got a website, and from time to time we are running specific fundraising events. So please join in.
My father, as a little boy, aged 6, losing his father, aged 89, he still felt as bereft, really, as he did then. It was such a wonderful thing, really, that he had this project to focus on. And It was what drove him to the end. He just cared so passionately that it was going to be a good monument and that it would happen.
War doesn't end with a ceasefire. It doesn't end with a surrender. War lives on through people. So all those people, all those thousands of men and women who fought, many of whom never came home, their memory, the achievements that they made, they're with us today, and I find them particularly inspiring.